Uganda, prepare for a shift.
Phaneroo's anniversary was not about Phaneroo. 10th of August 2024 is a day Kampala will never forget, but a lot went unnoticed because of the spectacle of the event. To have such a memorable day, a lot was banking on things going right, including volunteers, capital, availability, and a venue. From the declaration of NATHANIEL BASSEY, the size and the scale of the congregation, the undisclosed information of apostlegracelubega, to the prayers of the spiritual authorities of Uganda, a lot was glanced over. The biggest of which was what God was doing and is doing across the world. In working on this video, I found some of the most crucial things you must pick out from the decade of God's grace celebrations. This is the incredible 10th anniversary of Phaneroo Ministries International and what you overlooked.
We've started mobilizing already. The budgets are in. Give as you're led. So Pastor NATHANIEL BASSEY is going to be with us that day, leading us in the praise and worship, celebrating God.
This was in July. Due to the success of the 9th anniversary with Moses Bliss, spectators were now alert. From the well-wishers to the naysayers, everybody wanted to know, can they pull it off again? This is not only on the outside. Within the ministry, previous milestones were meant to be broken. It was noted that 70,000 women had attended this year's Women's Conference, the largest women's gathering in African history. But ministry records had been set all throughout this year, with the symbolism of completing a decade also to be considered. Expectations, especially in terms of attendance, were at an all-time high. The ministry entrusted its tried and true tactics: bring your 20, street preaching, and Yesu Yasasula. Then there was a media circuit. From Next Media to NBS, there were interviews of prominent members of the ministry. There was also the social media platforms on full blast. On top of that, church images were branded with the anniversary info, not to mention picture frames, branded t-shirts, and car stickers. The ministry definitely fuses traditional church mobilization practices with more mainstream sources of traction, and this ensures that it is in front of a multitude of eyeballs. However, just as the outreach activities came to a climax only days before the anniversary, disaster struck. Since 2021, most Phaneroo events are held at Kololo Airstrip. This year's anniversary was no different, or at least that is what we thought. The independence grounds have been going through renovation during this period, and I think we all assumed it would be complete in time, but everything still hung in the balance. Then the blow came. It was only 2 days before the anniversary when we were publicly informed that Phaneroo had changed its venue. And to make things more interesting, the location the anniversary had been changed to had previously had a national level controversy, but more on that later in this video. Immediately a new priority arose: organizing a Plan B location for tens of thousands of people within 48 hours. That is when one of the most memorable acts of anniversary occurred.
Thursday, they told us you're not going to be there. We sent messages and asked, can any volunteers avail themselves to come and help us set up? There was nothing except that 2 months ago, the Spirit woke me up in the morning and told me, grade your land. I asked Mr. Christian, I asked him, how many volunteers do we have? 10,000 people.
Before we go any further, if you're enjoying the video, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel as we push to 1,000 subscribers. Okay, now back to the video.
So the Lord laid it on our man of God's heart to bring NATHANIEL BASSEY for this year, and we're expectant for the message that God has given him to come and minister to us.
At this point, we were all aware that Pastor NATHANIEL was invited, but there was one issue, and we had not assumed its possibility. That week was a hectic week for the Onise Iyanu singer. He was expected to attend 3 different gatherings, as was eventually revealed. He missed one of them. Fortunately, he was able to make the Phaneroo anniversary, or rather, Uganda. But for me, it begged the question, what message needed to be delivered without fail?
When the seventh angel blows his trumpet, God's mysterious plan will be fulfilled. It will happen just as he announced it to his servants, the prophets. Uganda, get ready!
All through his session, he addressed the people beyond Phaneroo church members. God put something on his as well as Apostle Grace's heart for this session. We got a glimpse of what the message should have been. He told a personal story of what he experienced in Nigeria as reassurance as to what is happening not only in Phaneroo nor Uganda, but East Africa and the world. This is a reason for his commitment to attending and addressing this prophecy, which cannot be overly stated. I think Pastor Portia was on the money when she said,
for that unification of oneness, to come and celebrate God together, irrespective, it's not about where we are from, if you're international or local. It is the heart and spirit of worship and thanksgiving that matters most.
Now, with only half of anniversary complete, wonders were still to be witnessed. Phaneroo sits by the thousands each Thursday and Sunday. In an attempt to meet the needs of the flock, the church moved from Labonita to Lugogo MTN Arena and then Uma Multipurpose Hall in quick succession. A big problem was plaguing the ministry, the incapacitating of the venues being rented. Nowhere could contain the ministry.
Third or fourth meeting, people started fainting because there was no space. We saw
the need for land was screaming out loud. However, this was only half the issue. Where could Make Manifest purchase the land from? Up until this point, the church had been in the city center. In response to this, land was purchased in Chisasi. This was by all accounts prized land, but the issue was its location. It was a compromise that left an itch.
After several years, we bought a property somewhere in Chisasi. 5 acres of land. And I announced, and people danced. And I stepped on that property. And the Lord said, this is not the place.
A location in the heart of Kampala was desired. However, thanks to God, the issue was resolved by plunging into a land saga that would attract the interest of the highest political powers in the country. Naguru is prime land in the middle of Kampala. A door of opportunity arose and vast land in the county was up for sale. Apostle Grace utilized this chance and bought a sizable piece of land. However, the purchase was challenged by the Ugandan Parliament because this was coveted land, contested by multiple investors. It seems that the church had the weakest claim to the property, especially seeing that Phaneroo did not have capital to develop the land from the get-go. The authorities clearly preferred ventures with direct effect on the economic growth of the country in terms of goods, services, employment, and taxes. But God had a different plan altogether. He had already given the land to Apostle Grace and Phaneroo Ministries many years ago. God ensured that Phaneroo claimed that land in the most dramatic fashion by the influence of the president himself, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. One of my favorite repeated sayings of Apostle Grace, which I am paraphrasing, is that in all miracles that Jesus performed, there is a lesson, a teaching, a sermon. The land saga had so many details of faith with works, God's deliverance, fellowship, and faith. Again, go and watch this anniversary one more time. You will find how to act in crisis, how to express your faith, etc. Now, after these two men of God had ministered, there was one more session which might change Uganda more than anything else. I find it difficult to summarize prayers. It seems out of order to me. I suggest you watch it yourself. The key point being that in the time when elders were praying, the prayer requests were not directed to Phaneroo nor Apostle Grace. These prayer requests were tabled by Apostle himself right after he was done demonstrating. Let me put it to you this way. If you are present in the richest presence of God with quote-unquote assured answered prayers by the biggest prayer warriors you know, would your requests be over unity and youth? I believe that this was the most inclusive anniversary of Phaneroo one could attend. Actually, upon further reflection, Phaneroo anniversaries are open spaces for everyone. I had some people decline invitations as they belong to other churches. That would be a huge loss to whoever didn't attend. God is doing something on a continental scale, bringing worshippers from the west and ministers from the east. And church labels cannot be placed above that. I recommend you send people to watch and rewatch the live stream so that nothing gets overlooked. Leave in the comments the things that I have overlooked. Now, if you enjoyed this year's anniversary and would like to see what happened last year, click the video on the screen.